Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Primary Tumbleweed 89 and says, am I the arsehole for refusing my sister's offer to pay for the gender reveal scan? So my girlfriend, female 26, and I, male 29, found out in August that we are going to be parents to our first child. Generally, everyone was very happy about the news. However, because of the shock I felt at the time, it wasn't planned, I called my mother for reassurance and it helped. She wasn't happy I told her over a phone call, which I understand and am likely an arsehole for. I apologized and we put it behind us. My sister has been supportive. She helped us move to a new house and wanted to take my partner out baby shopping in a few weeks. However, my mother was less helpful. We had a FaceTime mid-August about housing options. Then my mother randomly asked me about if my partner was on the pill. I said yes, and I've seen her take it. And she asked if I was sure. Almost like she was insinuating that I was baby trapped. I've had worries about my sister. I'm happy she's excited, but I feel sometimes she's too much. She was talking about having the baby every weekend so we could do stuff as a couple. And I said we have to consider both families. She was also concerned about us moving a bit closer to my girlfriend's family than mine. She said I wouldn't get as much support and questioned the support from my partners as her mother lives 2 hours away. I said she comes down every weekend to look after her mother with dementia, we'll be fine. My sister offered to pay for our gender reveal scan. We both thought this was a lovely gesture and said yes. My sister understandably wanted to come because she's paying for it. My sister told me that the one she was booking allowed up to 5 people to come, and she suggested we bring my mum along. I then said if she's coming, then my girlfriend's mum should come too. She disagreed because it's the only involvement they have during the pregnancy, and my girlfriend's family will be at other events. We said it's not about who we're including, it's about having support during a personal appointment, and my girlfriend doesn't want only all my family there. My mum previously said it's either just my family or no scan. I said fine, we'll pay for it ourselves. My sister then messaged my girlfriend to explain her reasoning, which left her in tears. She also said my family likes to do things separate and they're a bit antisocial. They think meeting my girlfriend's mum at the scan will be awkward. We think this kind of reasoning is selfish and not putting our wishes first. My mum and sister are getting me to understand their reasoning. I do understand it, I just don't agree with it. My girlfriend's mum isn't bothered by them not wanting her there, just more by how it's affected us. She told me to not worry about them and hugged me. She said she's happy to pay for it and for me to invite whoever I want. This is a post here because despite many agreements about our side of things, I have doubts because my sister was going to pay for it. And I was considering my dad, but my girlfriend's mum believes that would anger my family. Am I the arsehole? Edit, to elaborate on a few things. The phone call with my mum, it wasn't an initial reaction of how dare I tell her on the phone. She was happy and said congrats based on if we were deciding to keep it at the time. It was only found out she wasn't too happy when we recorded my sister's reaction, and at this event I told my mother that I was driving to my dad's to see him the next day. My mum doesn't think my dad does enough for me. We see each other rarely in person, maybe like once or twice a year, but we get on fine. It was his first time being a grandfather and my mother's 4th time. My sister has 3 kids already. She's desperate for a 4th of her own, but my brother-in-law keeps telling her no. My mum, when I mentioned this, suggested just FaceTiming him, but I said no. And then she said, so he gets a live surprise and I get a phone call. I told her I needed initial support and sorry she found out this way. People have asked what's the situation with my dad. Him and my mum have been divorced for 24 years. He wasn't the kindest to my mother at the time, and I had a stepmother who kept driving a wedge between my dad and I, who's been out of the picture for a few years now. I told him about the situation and he thinks they're being ridiculous. I get people telling me I need a backbone, and yeah, it's something I've worked harder in therapy to get over. To provide a little backstory, I was an impressionable kid who was suspected of autism at a young age. My mum refused to take me to get assessed because she felt at the time that I should learn alongside the other neurotypical kids. This obviously didn't work because I constantly questioned myself, and with the aid of people like my sister reminding me of little mistakes I made, it continued to knock my confidence back. It was only until a breakup, which happened when I was 23, and a downward spiral of depression, did I get more help. Doctors said I didn't have autism but more anxiety. Mum and sister insist I do because they think I'll get more support. But linking it with stuff in this post, it feels like grooming. And I have pushed back on several occasions to just let me be. I get comments about how something I did was an autistic thing, which I said stop to. My sister has 2 kids diagnosed with autism and 1 kid with ADHD. And she works for an autism charity. I went on Prozac after being diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I was also with an ex at a different time and saw subtle controlling methods through that, and we didn't work out afterwards. That was something my family helped me through. But I'm getting that narcissistic people can often not get along with other narcissistic people because they're trying to expose the other person to make themselves look better. So my growing up was conflicted because on the one hand, there was nitpicking and on the other, care that seemed genuine. My mum has also suffered abusive relationships and grieved through the death of a partner. So I pinned weird behavior on that. Same with my sister who had a stillbirth. There's a comment somewhere in here which explains a list of stuff my sister did a few years ago, which stopped her going to my mum and stepdad's wedding. And now I'm with a beautiful human being to start being a family with. And while it's a shame my family couldn't be cooperative and understanding, she and our baby come first, and we need each other first and foremost. No one is dictating to us about who cares for them or anything else. I called my mum out for what she said about the baby trap. She apologized to me but not to my partner, who overheard the conversation. Ever since then, she's been distant. Writing this now, I'm wondering to myself why I'm even letting her come to the scan if my partner's mum comes after her behavior. My mum backpedals a lot, says something that would annoy or upset someone, and then says it was a joke. I've since told her there was backpedaling, but she's denied it. My mum's weird views on separating from my partner's family stems from her own anxiety, I believe. We believe she's on the spectrum, but she's in denial about it. We've seen moments of her having some sensory overload moments, being obsessed with specific topics, mostly conspiracy theories, lack of a filter at times, and struggle to see things from others' point of view. My sister, I believe, wants to be seen as the best guardian, very possibly parent, and sees her family as a threat. Now, the initial phone call at the very start of this post rubbed me the wrong way anyway, that your mum got on your back about it and, she wasn't happy that you told her over the phone, which you said you understand and you're likely the arsehole for, which made me think, and obviously I don't know, I wonder how much has been pushed onto you in your past as well from your mum, making you feel bad about other things. But even without the edits, the mum and sister sound awful in this situation. They sound like they're trying to control it, not letting the other family come to it as well. Just our family can go. It just sounds real controlling behavior. Having the baby every single weekend, it kind of just feels that even the closer the baby comes, the more involved they're going to want to be and escalate this behavior time and time again. I would, of course, don't accept that offer from sister at all and just go, you two. I'd understand if you wanted people there for support, but this isn't what support looks like. I could just imagine them being at this gender reveal and making the whole situation about themselves, but Tangerine Bouquet says, so absolutely not the arsehole. This wasn't an offer of a gift, it was a power play. You said no to your sister's conditions because she made your pregnant partner cry. Good for you. Keep setting boundaries. Congratulations and best wishes. Nez says, not the arsehole. Any help or gifts with strings attached, don't do it. Never, ever. Opie responds to that and says, yes, it's been a similar case when I was younger. When my sister asked me for a favor I wouldn't feel comfortable with or didn't drop everything to do, she'd say, but I do everything for you. These days I'm seeing the manipulation take a bit of a different form. Dart says, not the arsehole. Your mum chewed you out for calling her with a baby news. I was already scratching my head at that. You seem to accept that makes you an arsehole. With crap like that permeating your life, it's no wonder you're on here for the rest of this. Your mum and sister sound like real pieces of work, I'm sorry to say. Your mum goes on to insinuate you were baby trapped. And her and your sister go on to say only your side of the family should be in on the gender scan. It doesn't matter who is paying for it. Everything regarding your life is for you to decide who's included. Your girlfriend's mum sounds like truly a gem, by the way. Opie says, I accept that I need to set better boundaries for myself. I was always brought up believing I was being unreasonable, and it's only in the last few years I've been able to break away more. So you were right. I shouldn't question how I told my mother about the baby. I confided in her, and if my child did that with me, I'd appreciate him trusting me with being the first one to go to for advice. Now this behavior is affecting someone I love deeply, and I'm not allowing it to happen anymore. Sweet Pea Girl says your family sounds unkind and controlling. Your sister used paying for this scan as a power play, both to insert herself and your mum into a private moment between you and your partner, and to exclude others. It's really not nice at all. My advice is to set this boundary and hold it firmly. No one had a right to your girlfriend's body or the baby you are having. There is no taking turns, concept of fair between different grandmas, etc. This is about what your girlfriend wants because it's her body, and secondary to that, what you want. I'm sorry and sad that your family is playing silly buggers instead of just supporting you. I suspect this will get worse, so definitely hold firm. Not the arsehole. I haven't heard someone say silly buggers in a long time. Gotta use that more. Glittering Switch says not the arsehole for telling your mum on the phone, and definitely not the arsehole for declining. They're trying to power trip you both. It's better if they are the ones not invited to avoid more issues. Hope you respond saying, my sister called me earlier and tried to suggest 2 separate scans. One for my family and one for my girlfriends. I said no. I'm not doing this segregated thing just because you don't want to be associated with her family. She mentioned the awkwardness of meeting at the scan again, and I mentioned what was suggested here about going for a coffee. She was okay with that and wanted to chat to my mum, but I said we're booking a scan ourselves and it'd just be us. She became passive aggressive saying, okay fine, if that's what you want to do then cool, I've been very supportive of you. I just said that if you want to support us, let us do what we want to do. Then she tried to argue that the scan wasn't that personal and that her family is going to other scans. I said that her sister asked to go to another one. She even said that my partner is going to involve only her family in almost everything. I said that all my partner has said is how she wants both families involved. My sister wasn't getting it, so I ended it there. And obviously I don't know the ins and outs of the conversation, but it just feels like the sister's not even considering OP's partner at all in this. 2 separate scans, you got to turn up and be scanned twice basically, for the benefit of other people. Expert Slip asked OP, they said the necessity of an apology to your mum telling her over the phone raised my hackles. Is she always this exhausting? Your poor partner with a mother-in-law like this. You're going to have to work hard and think 2 steps ahead to protect your partner from your family. OP says I could look back now and count how many times I didn't need to apologize for my actions. My mother wasn't like this when it came to other partners in the past. She was protective when my first ex emotionally abused me. But I think the inclusion of this baby coming has revealed more difficulties with her behavior. Weirdly, when she said that, I was driving up to tell my dad the news, but told her over the phone. My partner and I pushed back on her and she backpedaled and said she was only joking. But I've noticed that a lot more. She'll make a dig, and when I argue back at it, she'll say it was a joke. Jokes are meant to be funny. But OP does come in and update the post, and they said, hi all, quick update, but a fair bit has happened in the last 24 hours, and it isn't good. First of all, thank you to everyone for your advice. I took it on board, especially the stuff about setting our boundaries now and not taking any more manipulation. There were some people questioning the need for a reveal scan. We just thought it would be nice for our first child. I understand that's not for everyone's liking, but that's what we want to do. Anyway, my sister called me on Sunday. I explained that my girlfriend should be allowed to have whomever she wants there. She reiterated the awkwardness of it at the scan. So I suggested a coffee meetup, which she said she'd chat to my mum about. My mum turned it down and said it was too formal. In her words, I'm sure I'll meet them someday. She suggested we have 2 separate scans for each of the family. I turned this down because I thought it was gross. My girlfriend is not a test subject for other people's enjoyment. And I said we'll book our own and invite who we want or have it just us. She then turned passive aggressive and said, fine, you do what you want. I've been nothing but supportive and my girlfriend is going to want her family there for everything. I said this isn't true. She said she wants both families involved. Knowing that they'd continue to try and make offers for the scan, I sent them a long message to both of them in a group chat. I've added the screenshots on the Insane Sibling subreddit, which you can see on my profile. And as you can see in the reply from my sister, she attempted to gaslight me into feeling bad. After she said that, we part ways and I blocked her on everything. I'm not having that kind of influence in my life and certainly not subjecting my girlfriend to it, especially if they're not going to respect our boundaries. My mum called me a short time after and told me my message was condescending, cold and formal, and didn't understand why I was overreacting about the scan. Told me to not interrupt. Even a message I sent to her, which was along the same lines as the one in the screenshot. I told her it's not just about the scan, it's about her over-involvement in general. Clearly my sister left details out because she didn't know about my sister wanting to look after the baby every weekend and being insecure about the support from my girlfriend's family. She said we should all meet up to chat. I'm not having them bully me though. If I'm there to chat, I'm having someone in my corner. She said she didn't want us arguing, but I said the ball is in my sister's court. My mum is attempting to play peacekeeper and has sided with my sister's erratic behaviour, so neither of them I really trust. As for the scan, my girlfriend and I have booked our own scan and we're having a reveal party next weekend where everyone is welcome, although right now I'm not inviting my mum and sister. I've explained the situation to my dad and he's disgusted at them. My sister and I have different dads. Edit, sorry I forgot to add, you're right that I should not have apologised to my mum for how I broke the news to her. She often comments on how my dad doesn't come down to see me and it's mostly me going up there. My dad and I do talk, and when I go up there, he often wants to pay for everything, no questions asked. I don't take this for granted, of course. I get rounds of beer in too, or chip in for the takeaway. Either way, I'm happy with the relationship my dad and I have. We've had issues in the past, but we move forward. Also re-uploaded a screenshot text message reply from my sister to my profile, since it keeps getting taken down on the sub for spam, although Reddit kept blanking the images, so I've added an image linked to them. So the text message to OP's family says, "Hi both, just wanted to update you on the scan. We've booked one ourselves and who goes depends on who wants to come. This isn't something I've told OP's partner as she's the one carrying the baby and she wants support from both families. But arguments about something we should be in charge of have made it difficult. It's our time and our family we're starting. We should be the ones making decisions. Trying to convince us to change our minds after we turn down the extra conditions without any compromise over meeting beforehand hasn't been appreciated. It's overstepping if I'm honest. We haven't talked much, Mum, but from what's been discussed, I assume you both share the same viewpoint. Any future events such as the shower events will be one event for each where close friends and family can come. You're still welcome to come, including the reveal we have after the scan next weekend. We're not doing 2 separate events for each family. Not only is it more money, but more time spent setting up multiple events and attending them. And I see no reason why either family has to be excluded from events that involve the family that OP's partner and I are creating. You may not spend time with her family, but that's for different reasons. You don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. I get on fine with her family. I may fall out with 1 or 2 people, who knows? And Mum gets on fine with Redacted's family. Other members of the family also have no issue being in their company. This is more of a personal issue than it is an unwritten rule. And if you don't want to go to these events because that family might be there, then don't. Shame to not see you there, but these events are for our child, not to appease everyone else. You don't have to talk to her family, just be there for us and respect what we want to do. These issues of shutting out her family is creating concern for what happens when the baby arrives. You said before about how we'll get better support from my family than hers. It's not a contest of who can provide the best support. The best support the child can get is from us, the parents. I'm not deciding which family is the best. I respect and love each person individually. And OP's partner would like support from her family too. It feels like unfair judgment is being placed on them without actually knowing them. And, sister or mum's name, please don't text about this stuff or ring OP's partner. Talk to me about this. This is creating stress that she doesn't need being pregnant, and that isn't good for the baby. She was in tears when she read your message, as we just want this pregnancy to go smoothly. If we're being told what we should be doing in regards to our own baby, then that's not the influence we want to have. We appreciate support, but we don't want over-involvement in this. This is what we want and what makes us happy. Please respect that. And then the sister replies and saying, well, OP's name, what a stab in the gut. I can't breathe with how much I'm crying. So cold. You have interpreted so many things incorrectly, but there you go. I hope everything works out for you. I will always love you, but I think this is where we part ways. OP did add an extra post on Raised by Narcissist that was titled When Your Mum Enables Your Sister's Actions, which just gives some extra information about OP's upbringing and what he's gone through with these people. But it ain't going to change the outcome of the story that we just read. That was pretty much the final part of it. But OP said, for more context, I've posted a story on Am I the Arsehole in the message I sent to both of them following the advice I was given from both the subreddit as well as my dad and my girlfriend. Initially this sparked because my sister wanted to pay for a gender reveal scan for the both of us, which we initially said yes to, and then later wanted my mum to come. And I said no because it's all my family in the room and none of my girlfriends, which I don't think is fair. My sister tried to convince me, saying it's something special that I get a chance to be involved with because my girlfriend will mostly have her family involved with the rest. We haven't excluded them from anything at all. They just don't want to associate with my girlfriend's family in any capacity. I set my boundaries out in the message yesterday saying we just want everyone to be included. We're not asking anyone to be friends. Immediately got told that my message was cold and that I made her cry, as well as us parting ways. This isn't the first time she's reacted like this. She showed troubling behavior in regards to the whole pregnancy, said hurtful things to me a few years ago when she became addicted to medical pills, like me not crying at her daughter's funeral. She had a stillbirth when I was 16. Clearly a troubling time, but not healthy for me. Pressed on me getting an autism diagnosis, including that I have way more struggles compared to everyone else. If I made any little mistakes like drop a sweet wrapper on the floor or use my auntie's show towels to try by mistake, she'd chew me out for it. I've talked about all of this in therapy, specifically CBT. What was always conflicting was genuine help she'd give, as well as my mum many times. But it always felt like something was wanted in return, because if I ever said no to something, she'd reiterate that she does everything for me and would call me selfish if I didn't. I wasn't the best. I'd forget birthday gifts mainly. When being an adult, she'd ask for money and had a go at me because I was concerned about her constantly asking. She said if I gave her money, I could consider it her other daughter's birthday present. She has 3 kids. My mum, on the other hand, had a bad relationship with my father, which I was told was abusive. I saw signs, but it's something my father denies when I asked him. They divorced when I was 5. It's just strange that at this time, it's my dad putting no pressure on me whatsoever and saying my baby, my choice. She had another partner who was also abusive, lasted for about 4 years. Later had a partner who died of a drug overdose and now has been married to my stepdad for 8 years. I can get life was difficult for her. I was a messy child. I couldn't use the kitchen to cook a lot, out of avoiding making a mess, and everything had to be pristine. If I felt I wasn't being listened to and I tried to make a point, she'd shut me down and say, I don't want to argue. She'd complain if I asked to be picked up from anywhere, so my sister often did it. Any school trip where kids' parents needed to accompany them, she'd completely avoid, and I was there on my own and another parent had to look after me. She forgot to pick me up from school a few times because she was napping. She didn't like a friend I hung out with and told me to tell him he was not welcome to a gig we were going to. His parents hated me after that. Even as an adult, if I'm upset by something she's done, she'll half apologize, call me and say, are you calm now? A friend of the family died and left his house to my mum and her 2 sisters in a will. They sold it. One of my aunties gave £5,000 to her 2 kids. My sister questioned this and told me that my mum said she had put it towards us as a rainy day fund. I don't even know what to believe from my sister, to be honest. My mum hasn't even told me about the money. It's not about the money, it's about the lack of trust and treating me like an idiot. Fast forward to now. My mum rang me yesterday after I sent the message to them both. Said my message was condescending, asked what the big deal about the scan is. My sister must have called her and failed to mention the pressure to get us to change our minds and all the other stuff. She genuinely believes my sister texted despite them falling out a few years ago because my sister stole £5,000 off her card to buy random stuff. Stole £200 off my nan for prescription drugs off the internet. Wanted to use my mum's house for her affair with someone and other hurtful things said. My mum wanted me to meet her and my sister for a coffee to sort this out. But there's nothing to sort out, except an apology and accepting our boundaries. And they can't even do that. And when it was mentioned about going the separate ways, I can only think that is the best way forward in this situation. You're going to be so much better without them in your lives. And like I always say, I know it's very, very easy for me to say I'm sat here behind a microphone and saying, split up from your family. But from the very beginning of this post, it felt like thinking about things that have been normalized for you. The fact that, like I said at the start of the post, you had to apologize for doing a pregnancy announcement over the phone and she made you feel guilty about that. It just made me think what else there was. And then you coming out with all this extra information, talking about your life, it just sounded like it got worse and worse. So I can only think without them in your life is only going to be more positive, more healthy for you, yourself, and your child as well. My mind was wandering to about what they would be like around your baby when the baby's here. How controlling and possessive they may be. Obviously, I don't know, but it certainly did make me think along those lines. But now, what do you guys make of this situation? What would you do if you was OP? You think there's another way around it, or is this a no contact situation for you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.